I want to tell you about a special time in my life when I know I was close to the Lord. And it came to fruition on a day after my son, who had been in the Air Force, came home and we were all sitting at the bar drinking a cup of coffee, and his friend was there, and I said, "Hey, Robert, you never have told us about the time you almost drowned in Guam." And he looked at his friend, and the friend was saying, "I didn't tell her." He said, "Mom, how'd you know about that?" So I went and got my prayer diary, because I keep them all the time, and opened it to a Saturday morning at about 10 o'clock in Guam. And the fact was, it was the middle of the night where we were living in the Houston area, and the Lord had waked me up with something urgent. I told my husband I have to get up and pray, and I think it's Robert. So I went and laid on my face at the floor at the foot of the bed and just started interceding, praying in the Spirit, not knowing what it was, but in a few minutes I knew it was dire and that he was about to drown. And I stayed that way on my face before the Lord, knowing exactly that I was where I needed to be for that kid, he was still a kid to me, to live. And after about 45 minutes, the amount of pressure on me left, and I could see the Lord's hand as though he were picking up a drowned rat. And I knew it was okay. I went and got back into bed and told my husband it was Robert, he was okay. And as silly as that may sound, I didn't even say anything to Robert about it because we weren't in the habit of talking to him much, and weeks went by and months, and other things were prayer needs, and it was just one of the many. But that day when he asked me about it, I said, "So son, you need to tell me what really happened on that morning." And he said, "Well, I really was drowning." He said, "I got into a whirlpool, and it's something about the harbor there at Guam." And he said, "I could see people, but they couldn't tell that I was in trouble." And he said, "My surfboard had broken away and was way over on the beach someplace, and I couldn't get out of it, and I kept swimming every different direction, and I could not get myself where I was in control of where I was going." And he said, "You know, Mother, then the funniest thing happened." He said, "I got a brainstorm, and I thought, where did that thought come from? But I looked over there, and there was a coral reef over there within swimming distance if it was straight across. But I was thinking, a coral reef does not go down at a 90-degree angle. So what does it do? It must slant. It must slant on all sides. If I can swim down, maybe I can get to the edge of that coral reef and climb up. That's the only way to get out of this whirlpool, is to go down into it." So he said, "I don't know where that came from, but that's what I did. I swam straight down into the whirlpool and reached the edge of the coral reef and climbed up, bloody and everything by the time I got to the top, lying there on that, realizing that there were people all around me, but they didn't know what a struggle I was having. And it had to be a thank you, Lord moment. And even as I tell it now, I think, the Lord did it, the Lord knew it was happening, the Lord showed me, and if I hadn't been right there and been obedient right then, that would have been one time I would have lost my son." So when we were sitting there drinking coffee, and I said, "Why didn't you tell me about the time you almost drowned in Guam?" he looks at his friend and he says, "Did you tell her?" "No." But I went and got my prayer journal, and there it was, because it was the morning of a Saturday morning when he would have been through with his duties, Saturday morning in Guam, about 10 o'clock. And I had already figured out what time it would have been there when this took place.